Hello, friends. This is Professor Googlon. On my channel, you mostly watch videos about the beautiful world around us. But today, it's a little different. What is it about? Keep watching to find out. The pin-a-Brelstaff illusion. Depending on the angle from which you view something, your brain interprets the image, processes it, and compares facts to present the most realistic version of reality to you. Since we have evolved in a world full of three-dimensional objects, two-dimensional images may appear strange to the brain, and it will try to make them three-dimensional for you. This is precisely what happens when you look at images known as the pin-a-Brelstaff illusion. The image consists of two concentric circles made up of center-oriented squares with reversed shading. It is known that the shading effect makes our brain perceive motion even if it doesn't exist. If you keep your head still, you will see a regular image, but if you shift your gaze closer to the screen and back, you will notice movement in the rings. The Ames room illusion. If you have ever wanted to appear taller than you actually are, the Ames room might be just the trick for you. The illusion occurs when people of the same height are in the same room, but one of them appears significantly larger than the other. The effect was first discovered by ophthalmologist Albert Ames in 1946. Creating the illusion requires a specially designed room that needs to be viewed from a specific position through a peephole. The room looks perfectly ordinary, but the floor, ceiling, walls, and windows have a trapezoidal shape. The floor, although it appears flat, is sloped, and the walls are not perpendicular to it but angled, allowing objects and people in the room to be arranged in a way that greatly distorts their proportions. In other words, the illusion works because the room, when viewed from the right angle, appears completely normal, and the brain relies on the perception of the room, adjusting the representation of all other objects in it to fit the logical construction. Even twins can appear completely different here. But it's all about the distance. The person who appears smaller is simply positioned much farther away from you and the other person, thanks to the clever design of the room. The principle of the Ames room illusion is a trick that has been used in several movies to create size differences between characters. For example, in The Lord of the Rings, Gandalf appeared much larger than the hobbits using this technique. Similar tricks have been used in silent films as well. The impossible waterfall illusion. Through experimentation, people have discovered that there are certain principles that cannot be violated. That's why images of realities that are impossible in the real world are so popular. You've probably seen pictures of unreal stairs or other shapes that are only possible in a two-dimensional world because they don't adhere to the laws of a three-dimensional world. But what happens if you reproduce such an image in real life? These frames show the impossible waterfall in action. One engineer managed to construct such a setup. As we can see, the man pours water into the structure with a water wheel at the bottom, and the water flows upward. Then the water spills over the top edge and causes the wheel to rotate. It seems utterly impossible. Your brain will struggle to understand how this construction is made. At some point, you may decide that it simply cannot be true under any circumstances. And unfortunately, you're right. It's an optical illusion. In reality, the illusion is created through skillful video editing. The video consists of three segments that together create the impression that the laws of physics and gravity have ceased to function. However, when compared to other illusions, your brain is likely to believe the deception before realizing what is actually happening. The ambiguous garage roof illusion. Our brain not only presents us with the image perceived by our eyes but also utilizes contextual analysis and prior knowledge to make corrections. Usually, this is beneficial in everyday life, but sometimes the extent of brain activity becomes particularly noticeable when you look at certain objects through a mirror. In the illusion of the changing garage roof, there is a model car placed beneath a roof made of folded playing cards. The roof itself appears as if it is upside down, but in the mirror reflection, it seems to have a completely different shape. And seeing that it's the same roof reflected on the real model, our brain becomes quite perplexed. So, how does it work? The answer is quite simple. If you remove the roof from the garage, you can see that it has a completely different shape, distinct from the two we saw earlier. It's a skillfully folded piece of cardboard with unevenly placed lines. By rotating it and placing it above the car, you can once again see a straight semicircular roof, while in the reflection, it appears curved. The Hering illusion. The optical illusion discovered by German physiologist Ewald Hering in 1861 is a classic example of how our brain struggles to perceive objects when something unusual is happening in the background. Hering depicted lines radiating from a central point on the background and two vertical lines intersecting the background on the foreground. So, do you think the red lines are straight or curved? Most people perceive a slight curvature, although in reality, the lines are perfectly straight. The theory underlying this illusion hints at one of the smartest things our brain tries to do. When we look at an object, we are actually also looking at what is behind it, even if we don't pay attention to it because it takes some time for light to reach our eyes and for the brain to interpret it. The radial lines in the background deceive our brain, making it think that we are moving forward. But to make any decision, we need to know what was in the past and predict what will happen in the future. Thus, the brain processes incoming information and predicts changes before we even notice them. If the vertical lines are stationary and the radial lines suggest forward motion, within a few moments between when the eyes see the light and process it, we slightly move forward, where the straight lines will appear slightly curved. In other words, the brain literally changes the picture of what is seen in advance. The Munker circle illusion. In the realm of perception, the most frequent question is how our brain perceives colors. And the more color-related illusions we see, the more questions arise. Enter the Munker circle illusion. Don't trust the colors you see on it. The image consists of 12 circles arranged in the background, with colored lines partially overlapping and covering the circles in the foreground. The colors of the lines alternate in the order of blue, orange, green, and purple. So, what color are the circles in the background? Strangely enough, it seems like all the circles are of different colors, but if you look closely, they are constantly changing colors. In other words, as soon as you decide to look at the green circle, it changes its hue, but with your peripheral vision, you'll see that some circles nearby are actually green. The illusion lies in the fact that all the circles are of the same color, but the horizontal lines interfere with our brain's perception of color. There are many ways to demonstrate this illusion using other objects. The question remains: how reliable are the colors we have ever seen? Friends, don't hesitate to write comments under the video about what else you would like to learn. I will definitely fulfill your wish. Bye for now.